Respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. May the peace of Allah, all His mercy and blessings be upon you all. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of Allah, the source of mercy, the most mercy giving. We start our program and we would like to welcome our guest, Professor Dr. Anis Ahmad, to Dubai. Dr. Anis, you are welcome, and it will be a great pleasure to have this conversation with you. In fact, we are very honored and privileged to have the chance of talking to you. And I heard that you have given some lectures here in the UAE.
Yes, sir.
To start with, I usually, when I have a guest who was not a Muslim and became a Muslim, I usually ask him about how he went into the circle of light, how he found himself in a new form. I wouldn't call that a conversion or a reversion. I call it a metamorphosis, a natural metamorphosis for a truth-seeking person. But for a person who had always been a Muslim, born in Islam, grew up in Islam, but who has an experience like you have, because I'll introduce you now to the viewers, and I'm sure it will not be a short introduction. We have to give you your due. The first question in our conversation shall be about what do you think are the most important issues, ways, methods, paradigms maybe that would be of attraction to the non-Muslim to join Islam. But before I give you the chance to give the answer, I'd like to introduce you to our viewers. Dr. Anis Ahmad is a professor of Islamics and comparative religion. He is also editor-in-chief of West and Islam, which is a quarterly that comes in Urdu in Islamabad. He is also the chairman of the Foundation of the Faithful, which is a non-governmental organization committed to development of education, and we shall talk about that, human resources and development, and social welfare. He also carries a PhD in comparative religion and Islamics from Temple University, Pennsylvania, USA. I'd like our viewers to know that you could also attain the PhD on comparative religion from America, from the West, from everywhere in the world. So religion is international, and whatever appears to be a fight between religions is nothing else other than a natural exchange of opinions and ideas between these different religions. You have held a lot of responsibilities. You were the Dean of Faculty of Social Sciences, International Islamic University in Islamabad. You were the Vice President at International Islamic University in Islamabad. You were the Dean Faculty of Islamic Learning. You were the Founding Director General of the Dawah Academy of International Islamic University, and so many other things. I wouldn't like to take the time on these things. I'd rather prefer to listen to you. Yet you taught and lectured at so many places. In Appalachian State University, North Carolina, the Temple University in Philadelphia, International Islamic University in Malaysia, International Islamic University in Islamabad, and the Karachi University in Pakistan. Beside all this, an Institute of Business Administration, National Defense College, the Foreign Service Training Institute of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Islamabad, National Institutes of Public Administration in Pakistan, and so many things. And I would like only to draw the attention of our viewers that we're sitting with a scholar of a large caliber, somebody who can be called a big shot.
Just a student.
Well, that's the humility of the scholars. They call themselves students. You hold a number of memberships and fellowships, and you taught so many courses, varying from source of Islamic law up to Islamization of knowledge, up to the history of Christianity, Hinduism, Buddhism, Islamic art and culture, Quranic sciences, Hadith sciences, comparative methodology for study of religion, comparative mysticism, We shall touch on that because a lot of people don't know what mysticism is. And then religion and violence, which is a very relevant subject nowadays. But when you produced that, it was not at this time, but the time earlier.
Sure.
So somehow you anticipated what could happen if the religious and the personal attitude balance is somehow shaken, and we will end up having violence in the name of religion. And then you have published a number of works, Women and Social Justice, Muslim Women and Higher Education, Islamic Dawah programs, so many other subjects. And then also you have another set of subjects that you dealt with. Actually, the list is more than 3 pages. But we would like now to have an answer to the first question. What do you think would attract a Muslim, a non-Muslim, to Islam? Through your vast experience, you were in America for so long. Also in Pakistan you meet non-Muslims. You've been traveling all around the world, giving lectures. Please.
Thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate very much your very welcoming words that you just gave. I think there are several aspects we should discuss in this question. Islam is the only world faith which goes directly in most simple manner to the mind and heart of a person. And therefore, without any theological complications, one finds it nearest to nature, nearest to one's needs, which recognizes many of the human shortcomings and many of human strength. And that's what attracts a person. Someone who wants to go to a specific religion that claims to create a spiritual nirvana is concerned only about spirituality.
What do you mean by spiritual nirvana?
Well, spiritually you liberate yourself, discover a kind of feeling, an experience which is very much internal. Now that's one dimension of life, but it does not provide in simple manner answer to my basic problems. If you want to have an economic development, if you want to have some issue that relate with society, then I lack those aspects. Just a spiritual dimension cannot solve those problems. Islam, on the other hand, addresses a person in most simple and direct manner. So he finds or she finds very simple answers to difficult questions. And that's why Islam has been the fastest growing faith in modern history. But you mentioned that you have introduced non-Muslims quite frequently. I think it's not only non-Muslims, but Muslims themselves discover Islam every day. They discover it at different levels.
Yes.
When they are born in a Muslim family, that's how they find environment. When they look on Islam critically, when they want to understand why Islam has certain teachings, then they develop an intellectual journey. Even the Quran talks about Islam, Iman, and Hadith tells about Ihsan.
Yes.
That means you have a gradual development as a Muslim,
Towards the spiritual nirvana.
discovering dimensions every day.
Yes.
So it's not confined to non-Muslims.
Yeah, you mean my question was actually meant to be for those who are truth-seeking, for
Yes.
those who are looking forward to find out something that will make them happy, as you have well formed the term spiritual nirvana. Maybe some of our viewers do not know the meaning of the word nirvana, so we have to tell them that nirvana means a spiritual status of highest satisfaction, of putting the person
It's enlightenment.
enlightenment.
Yes.
And therefore, I always feel that there are some things that make the non-Muslim not only just attracted to Islam, but somehow, in a way or another, feeling that, should I know about this religion or not? Is this religion of relevance to me or not? These questions are very important because we Muslims do not do missionary work like the other religions.
Sure.
And therefore, our task is more difficult. We're supposed to do that when we are asked. Answer, tell the people about our religion. We're supposed to do it even if they don't ask. So long they are living with us, they can tell us about their religion, and by the same token, we tell them about our religion. But this is only not a religious question. This is a cultural question. This is an educational question. You will understand the other person better if you know how he thinks, how he feels. And the religion governs that, whether we like it or not.
Dr. Abdullah, you have just used the word culture.
Mhm.
The fact of the matter is, Islam is essentially a matter of culture.
Mhm.
Not just rituals, not just worship, not just spirituality, but a culture. A culture of knowledge, a culture of honesty, a culture of compassion, tolerance,
Values.
a culture of peace. That means there are values which are not created by society, but values that come from beyond the society to transform it. And that's where a difference lies. You have cultures where are mainly development of local situation. A
And maybe
culture of a tribe,
material achievements.
a culture of a people who are living in a specific geographic territory. But Islam provides a culture which is based on universal values relevant for every single human being. Therefore, Islamic Sharia, as I understand,
Of which
is
human
not,
rights
is not a matter of monopoly of Muslims, but Sharia is based on those values which are extremely important
For everybody.
for a non-Muslim, for a human being, wherever he may be. If Sharia wants us to respect life, to respect
It's the life
honor,
of everybody.
it's not confined to Muslims. Therefore, what attracts a person is this universality, this openness, this open door policy, this welcoming attitude that you are not joining a closed club of ethnocentrism. I'm sorry for this term,
No,
but
sir,
that's
you're right.
how you find Judaism claiming it's a matter of genetic conversion. Therefore, seed of David,
Not only Judaism,
seed of
so
David,
many other religions.
many others, seed of David makes a person a Jew. Now, that's not with Islam. Islam has all kind of colors, all
Opens
kind
boundaries.
of races, all kind of languages, and all these integrate in those values which are there for every human being. So,
This is true. Now I'm thinking about an example from the Islamic history, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, it was narrated that he saw a funeral being carried by people. He didn't join the funeral, but he stood up. So the companions who were around him, they stood up too. And one of them, coming very near to him, whispering, "But this is a funeral of a Jew, messenger of Allah." And the Prophet, peace be upon him, answered, "Awalaysa nafsan, isn't he a soul of God, created by God?" So this shows that that Islam, in its history, in the practices of the Prophet, peace be upon him, does respect the human soul, whoever
you see,
that soul might be.
it's not only one act of Prophet, but Islam as such is a matter of recognition of other people. Therefore, Islam is first world faith which claims to have plurality, which means if someone is a non-Muslim and wants to live in Islamic society, he is most welcome to live there. Islam is not a matter of a kind of imposition.
He is not forced to change his religion.
Not at all, not at all. You see, what we are facing today is a very strange situation. In the name of so-called democracy, so-called secularism, these ideologies are imposed on people with the way of understanding as some people have. So if you believe in the brand of secularism which is propagated by certain powers, then you are okay. Otherwise, you don't have license to live. Islamic approach is contrary. It tells us if you are a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Jew, a Christian, you are welcome to stay in your own faith. But you must conform to basic human norms, which means decency, honesty, fairness, straightforwardness, and you should not create a state of violence. Therefore, the Quran tells us it is for you, the Muslims, that you make sure the synagogues, temples, and masajid are available for people to go and worship there. It's not a matter of only Muslim masajid. If a mosque is demolished, then we get emotional. No. Even when a temple is demolished,
We have to get emotional.
when a
as well.
church is demolished, then we are supposed to respond in the same manner. I'm not aware of any other faith which has that
Degree
plurality,
of tolerance, yes.
that recognition.
Yes.
The blood of a non-Muslim is equally valuable, honor of a non-Muslim is equally valuable, and this exists only in Islam. Others say you can go and eliminate Gentiles the way you like, but here they have a recognition, they have a place for them, and they create a kind of collage in society where you have different kinds of shades and colors.
This brings me to the next question. We are living in a time of cultural clashes. Let's not call them religious clashes, but cultural clashes. And you have written under this title, Cultural Clash in a New Context, Islam and the West. I would like to know in which direction these clashes are going. What do we expect are these cultural clashes? Are they going to be a menace to humanity? Are they going to influence humanity in a negative manner? How are we going to deal with them as Muslims? How we should deal with them as Muslims?
Yeah, the whole concept of clash of civilizations is essentially a Eurocentric approach, which assumes that Europe is at the center of history, and because of that, Europe's culture, which they think is uniform, which is never uniform,
And never been.
never been, but they think it's uniform culture, and therefore this culture must dominate all other cultures. If there is any possibility of a rival, rival must be eliminated by clash. This is, in very simple words, what Sam Huntington and in a different manner Fukuyama have come up
Both
with
of
the
them.
idea of end of history and the ultimate man. Now that means whatever they think as their system transcends all other ideologies. Islam, on the other hand, takes the approach of mutuality, of living together, of having plurality of culture and faith. Therefore, civilization clash is essentially a product of a mind which assumes that Europe is central. Now, our approach is that
The West is central.
West is
That's
central.
what, yeah.
Our approach is contrary. We think that humanity at large is the basis, and therefore the Quran addresses itself to the humanity. Hudan linnas. It never said hidayah
all
for
people.
Arabs, for Persians,
Asians or-
for any others.
Yeah.
Now that determines our parameters and tells us that we are not for clash, but we are for recognition, cooperation, interaction, dialogue, and ultimately ta'awun in bir, and no cooperation in what is wrong. So Quran gives us the principle, even with those who are human beings around you, you go ahead, extend the hand of cooperation on what is virtuous, ma'roof and good, and doesn't have to cooperate with them on what is wrong and what is unjust. So Islamic approach is essentially an ethical approach as compared to a ethnic approach, in which you find a number of Western writers insisting on a clash of civilization, which is essentially, in their view, civilization of the white man. Now that's not what Islam believes. We believe in humanity at large, and we want to see human values, human ethics prevail all over the world.
Now, in considering what you have said, I would like to put another point forward about which we can talk. Islam and the Muslims, from the Western perspective. You've been in America for quite a long time.
Yes, yes.
You've been exposed to all the social, political, and maybe media aspects
Mm-hmm,
of
mm-hmm.
this question. Most Muslims today have the feeling that they're being misunderstood, that their religion is being misunderstood. Some think this is done intentionally by the Western media. Some think this is done unintentionally because of lack of knowledge, because we Muslims do not convey our message properly to those people, do not bring the message in the proper manner, which is described in the Quran, hikmati wal maw'iz al hasana, with wisdom and good preaching. What do you think about that?
I believe,
Out of your experience.
yeah, you see, my own experience has been very positive. I have interacted with people in academic circles, common men in the street. I have interacted with people who are my neighbors, business community. And I have found that majority of people in America and elsewhere are always receptive and open to any kind of education, information. However, there always be a group of people in any society who have preconceived ideas. Nevertheless, these preconceived ideas in many cases are made by media, which is either controlled by some agencies or feels much happy in creating sensationalism. And therefore,
So the idea is this sensationalism.
therefore, if you project something drastic taking place, people will be interested in seeing it. If you just give things simply, if you say a dog has bitten a man, no problem. You must
This
say
happens
a
every
man
day.
has bitten a dog.
That's something special.
Then becomes special, because when a man bites a dog, then you say
Yes.
a headliner there.
Yes.
So they want to create this kind of situation, and Muslims are a very easy prey in that respect. They can be projected the way you like. Secondly, I believe that we Muslims ourselves have to be blamed. We quite often talk about Islam in a very narrow,
Minded way.
very particular manner. So someone says, well, if we can have in our country cutting of hands as a punishment for thief, we have Islam. Someone says, well, that's not Islam, but Islam is when I have in my heart a peace, and that's Islam.
And I don't need to cut.
Nothing to do with it. Someone says, well, even that's not enough. But if we are going for 5 times daily prayers and having fasting enough for us. Someone says, even that's not necessary. When I'm sitting in a studio, in a TV program, and I have a feeling I'm in presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's enough for me. Now, when we talk on those aspects, then people think Islam is something very strange. Islam is totality. That's why the Quran tells us messengers are sent for 4 basic purposes. Firstly, they communicate, have the iblagh, have the
Bring the message.
truth given by ikhtilaf ayat. Then they provide people with a purification process, which is also a spiritual and cultural growth. They give those values which ultimately create a culture. Therefore, it says tazkiyah, which is development and growth.
Yes.
They give what is in the book.
Cleaning.
Yes. Cleansing and development, both, purification. Then it tells us that these prophets are sent to let people know the book. And the book means guidance and hidayah.
Absolutely.
No one can
The
give
manual.
guidance better
The manual,
than
yeah.
the one who has made humanity.
Absolutely.
And then they say,
The maker. has
sure,
got the right,
then
yeah.
they say not only this hikmah and is this book, but also hikmah. What is behind it, how to apply it. Now, with these 4 purposes, Islam becomes a totality. It does not leave the aspect of purification, does not leave the aspect of development and growth, does not leave aspect of economy, society, family, culture, entertainment. All aspects are covered in these 4 basic functions of prophets. They are not there just to prophesize, but to give a modality in all these areas. And that makes Islam very much different, a total system, not confined to only law or to spirituality or to rituals or to some kind of personal liberation. All these aspects are put in one single whole. That's why Islamic personality is a holistic personality. It's not the person who draws a line between this is religious and this is secular. A Muslim is not Muslim on Friday alone, but a Muslim is Muslim throughout the week. Therefore, the Quran tells
Throughout
us,
his life.
Therefore, the Quran tells us, even when the call for Jummah is made for you, then you rush towards masjid to do zikr of Allah.
Yes.
When zikr is done,
Then you
go back to market with zikran kasira.
Yes.
That means you carry your zikr back to market.
Yes.
You are not
You're
separating
changing.
it
You're changing all the paradigms of the market into this purified form that you carry out from the
with
masjid.
ethics. So when you are there, you carry their business ethics. Ethics to manage time. Ethics to have good relations with people.
This is how the prayer makes things better.
That definitely, the prayer is not object in itself, but it is to prepare us for that conduct and behavior which we have in market, which we have in parliament, which we have in our legal matters. Everywhere this ethics is to be carried.
There's one problem that concerns quite a number of Muslims. The Muslims are no longer, they had always been like this. They go everywhere in the world, because in Islam the feeling that a Muslim is an international citizen who could be born somewhere and buried somewhere else. The Quran tells us you don't know where you're going to be buried, when you're going to die or be buried. So the Muslims belong to the world. And that's why we find that amongst the most people who are traveling and migrating are the Muslims throughout history. Like no other religion, like no other adherents of any other religion, or even a nationality of any kind. Now, all over the world, we have Muslim, so-called Muslim minorities. There are some places where I call them the second majority. I don't want to mention certain countries, but we know that in Southeast Asia and in Central Asia, there are some countries that have a Muslim population that is by far bigger than the Muslim population in the Middle East. So these cannot be just a minority, they're the second majority. These minorities had been a point of your attention at one particular time, and you wrote the Muslim minorities' problems and prospects, Western Islam again, in July, September 1998. Would like you to enlighten us more about this subject. What are the problems of the Muslim minorities? How can the Muslim minorities manage these problems? How can they, in a way or another, shift from the passive attitude, the negative attitude they have now, into a more positive attitude of being a crucial part, an effective part of the society they live in, instead of alienating themselves through their different appearances, through the different behaviors? What would you say to that?
I think your question has two major aspects. Firstly, you talked about Islam and Muslims as being international.
Yes.
I think it's not a matter of theory. If we go to history, we find Ibn Khaldun, born in a specific place, travels. In one place, he becomes Qadi. In the other, he becomes an advisor and minister. Ibn Battuta travels in many places. Wherever he goes, because of his knowledge and capabilities, he's offered positions. They never asked for his passport.
These were the earlier Islamic experts.
They only said, you have this capacity, please come and take over the position. So Islam, in true sense, provides that approach is international. Now, on the issue of minorities, I seriously object on the term minority, because it's essentially a concept which is based on quantity and not quality. A creative mass could be very small, yet
It could be very effective.
And change the whole society.
Absolutely.
Therefore, the Quran calls Ibrahim, you are ummah.
By himself.
By himself. Did not say, when you bring 100 million people, you become an ummah. And that is Islamic approach, where we should not say Muslim minorities, but community. Secondly, Is Muslim communities, I think, have a very serious problem, and that is of assimilation, wherever they are. And sometimes in Muslim countries, those who are consciously Muslim become minority, and those who are traditionally Muslim become majority. However, we use this term mainly with those Muslims who are living in Europe, in America, and elsewhere.
Outside the Muslim world.
Yes, their first major problem is they do not get their basic human rights to live by their culture, to live by the religious norms, ethical norms in a society which welcomes it. On the other hand, they are compelled to get their children educated in that system, which give them values of secular society. Therefore, in my view, their one major problem is how to educate values, culture, and faith to their coming generations with their own assumptions. And since we believe in human rights, therefore, those who are in larger number in countries which we call majority culture, they should have at least arrangement and acceptance of this fact that people who are not believing in those values have a human right to have educational liberty. Secondly, I believe that Muslim minorities, quote unquote, should come out of the psyche of minority. Minority has a psyche.
Mentality.
And that psyche is that since I'm small, I should go out and beg for some rights.
That he feels that he's redundant.
If there are 6 million Muslims in North America, many of them are born and raised in America. They are second generation, third generation. They are not so-called immigrants. They are not
no longer
so-called
immigrants.
visitors.
No.
They are part of the society, and they must get out as early as possible of this feeling we are just a minority and we are at the mercy of majority.
Yeah, we have a telephone call now from Dubai. Yes?
Yes, please.
Suhail?
Hello, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, doctor, for telecasting such a good program.
Thank you.
It is good. It is a source of inspiration for us, and we need.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, and even we learn more about Islam when we see your program.
Oh, thank you.
And we anxiously wait every week.
May Allah accept our work anyway.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
I really welcome Professor Dr. Anis in Dubai.
Thank you.
And how are you, doctor?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I'm enjoying my stay here.
I even watch your program on PTV. Yeah.
Thank you.
So you see, now you have him in Dubai,
Yeah.
and you would like to put a question forward, you're more than welcome.
Yeah. I just want to ask you about the same question which we were discussing about the Muslim minority. That was my question actually.
Very good. Now, what do you think about the Muslim minorities? Do you agree with the professor on what he had said, or do you have another opinion which we might add and might be of use to our viewers?
Yeah, it is what the doctor has said is good, and it really is what actually is happening.
Did you ever live in any country before you came to the UAE and felt that you are a minority? Here you are not a minority as a Muslim.
Yeah.
But maybe you've been in another country where you have been a member of a minority, so-called minority between brackets, because
Yeah.
I respect the terminology which is given by the professor, not a minority but a community.
Yeah, exactly. But I did not experience such being a minority in any of the countries. But when I went to give the O-level exams, I was only the Muslim, and all of my the students who came to give the exam were all Christians and non-Muslims. Yeah, so you can call in that context.
But you didn't face any harassment, any sort of, you didn't feel that you are minor, let's put it that way.
No, not really, not really.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay. Thank you very much,
Thank
sir,
you
for
very
calling.
I think that relates with one's personality and one's own trust and confidence in one's being.
Yes.
If a Muslim consciously believes in the Quran and Sunnah, if a Muslim is proud to be a citizen of world, not just a national of a country, but a world citizen. Then wherever he will go or she will go, they'll have no problem at all. He will walk and she will walk with confidence in New York, same confidence in Paris, same confidence in Sydney.
Yes.
So Islam makes us persons who have solid roots in human culture, in truth, and therefore the moment we realize this dimension of Islam, we come out of the psychology of minority.
Wonderful. Tanweer. Yes. Hello. We had Tanweer from Dubai. It seems we have a difficulty in the connection. Well, going a little bit further. Do we have Tanweer now from Dubai? Hello there.
Hello,
Yes.
this is Shabahat from Dubai.
Shabanat.
Yes.
Well, welcome Shabanat. Yes, go on.
First of all, assalamu alaikum to you.
Alaykum salam.
Assalam wa rahmatullah.
Sir, I have a question to ask about Muslim girls.
Yes, go on.
Is it okay for a Muslim girl to go to a co-ed college? Does or does not Islam forbid it?
What college?
Co-ed.
Co-education, yeah.
Islamic,
go.
Islamic education system assumes creation of conducive environment for both men and women.
And women, yes.
And therefore, according to modern researches done in America, we find that those girls who go to a male majority university feel extremely insecure, their talent, their responses do not come out properly. They feel oppressed. Same will happen if you have a majority female environment where a few males are sitting. They will feel extremely odd, oppressed, and very much in a kind of uncomfortable situation.
It doesn't give the proper liberty.
Since Islam wants development of talent in full free environment, therefore it says that you should go ahead and have educational institutions only for boys and only for girls. The concept
Even
that
in the West, they're finding out that this is
the
more...
concept that they don't know about each other will create problems is completely baseless psychologically.
Yes,
Now,
it's true.
suppose...
But let's have this call and then I'll let you continue. Yes, Tanweer
No,
now.
I haven't answered yet the question.
Now I'll let you go on. Tanweer?
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Bilal.
Alaikum salam.
How are you, sir?
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Anis.
Wa alaikum salam wa
Welcome
rahmatullah.
to the program. It's a very interesting program, and there are many things, thought-provoking things which you are saying.
Thank you very
So
much.
in that light, I just have little bit three questions. The first being that you mentioned that the Muslims in the non-Muslim environment, they face difficulties in coping up with the kind of Islamic education they want to have, and all that, and things like that. I'm sure you are aware of the fact that even in Muslim countries, certain Muslim countries, a Muslim cannot practice the way he wants to. For example,
Sure,
he
you are
cannot,
right.
he
You are
or
right.
she cannot dress in an Islamic way.
Yes.
He cannot have a beard and things like that.
Yes.
So we have a problem in the Muslim countries.
Yes.
So we should not be that much critical about the non-Muslims. I think they are more accommodating to our religion than certain Muslim countries.
You're being very fair.
I agree with you. I fully agree with you.
And second question is that you in the beginning mentioned Islam is a culture, and culture means it from cradle to grave, including everything, peace, tolerance. So in that aspect, I have a question that we are bombarded in the newspaper, Muslim countries defending ourselves against criticism from the West, that Islam is a tolerant religion, Islam is a peaceful religion. My question is, where does, in the Islamic culture, the tooth for tooth, eye for an eye comes into play? When does it come? We are always talking about Islam as peace and tolerance. But I think there is an aspect in Quran which says, tooth for a tooth, eye for an eye. When should we invoke that culture in Islam? And the third point is, excuse me, the third point is, you I'm not talking about non-Muslim countries, Muslim countries only. We Muslim countries, especially the governments, anything to do with Sharia, Quran, Sunnat, Hadith, if anybody wants to practice it in letter and spirit, we Muslims are forerunners in branding them terrorists. So could you please explain to us what is a terrorist? Is a terrorist a person or a system or a government who wants to run on the affairs of the country as per Quran, Sunnat, Hadith, Sharia, with women covering hijab, men having beard, and things like that? Because Islamic Republic of Pakistan is the leader, forefront right now in coalition with non-Muslims, Americans, and Jews in branding everybody terrorist. They are attacking.
We wouldn't like to go into the political aspect of that.
No, Dr. Billah, Islam is a complete religion, total religion.
Yeah, but we don't want to mention any country in particular. Our program tries always to remain telling the facts without giving a chance for anybody to say anything.
Because Islam is total religion from cradle to grave, thus politics is part of it. Because we cannot separate state from religion in Islam.
No, I know that, but we don't want to mention these things. We want to mention the principles.
We Muslim countries are in fact more anti-terrorist than the non-Muslims themselves. So can you please explain these three aspects I've talked about?
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.
Alaikum salam. I think we better answer the first question first, and then
precedence on this question.
Yes.
And since she asked specifically, I was saying that in conditions...
You are an educationalist as well, so you are the best one to answer this question.
And I know I have been teaching in both contexts. I have taught in the West, where I had classes with co-ed. I have taught in Malaysia, where I had classes with co-ed. In my university, we have separate education for boys and girls. And I have sometimes taught a whole class of girls because of my specialization. They couldn't get a female to teach comparative religion, so I have taught them. And but you see, what I'm saying is, if you are in a situation where it is not possible for you to have a separate educational program, what would Islam say? Remain ignorant, less informed, and just say that because of this principle, I should not get education? Not at all.
What would you do in such a case?
You have to go for education even in co-ed, where you have no choice for separate education. Nevertheless, you observe your basic cultural and religious instructions, which means properly dressed, your way of communication. You are not supposed to go all soaked in perfume there, but go with modesty, simplicity, so you're not attracting others, but participating in the process of education in a university, in a college, or wherever it is. So Islam does not stop when you have no choice. Then you have to go for it. If you do not go, it's against Islam.
Professor, with you, time runs very quickly.
I'm sorry.
Because you are just like a flowing waterfall of knowledge. So we would like very, very briefly, because we're left with 2 minutes, to answer these three questions.
Yeah.
Maybe the last one is more important, with radicalism.
Okay, I take the last one.
Yes.
You see, a terrorist is defined in terms of his attitude, which is violent, which is terrifying, aggressive, and not a matter of correction. Islam does not permit terrorism at all.
No.
Therefore, jihad is not terrorism, not barbarism, not use of brutal force. But
it's a counter fight.
Jihad means an organized effort to establish social justice.
Wonderful, wonderful.
To give people their human rights. And that's why the other question, tooth for tooth, is not something conflicting. If you don't have their problem solved, if someone is killed and we say, how skillfully you kill the person, then it's not humanity. If someone breaks teeth of a person, we say, well, let's go to a dentist and forget about what he has done. No, that's not humanity. If someone has taken that extreme act, then this person should be brought to justice.
Thank you.
Islam is
Professor,
justice.
I'm very, very sorry that the time is so short. I thought maybe 55 minutes will be such a long time. Now I notice if you have, it is the content that gives the time dimension, not the time that gives the content dimension. I am very pleased to have you as a guest here.
Thank you very
And I'm also very thankful to those who had been viewing us this evening. And
It's my honor to be here and my pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you very much. I would only like to remind our viewers that this program is going to be repeated on tomorrow, 9 o'clock in the morning in the EDTV, as well as Saturday, 6 in the morning for those who have not seen it. And till that time, I leave you with the peace of Allah, His blessings and mercy. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.